Hi y'all, I'm Erica and this is my first Booktube video. For my first video I've decided to do the A to Z Bookish Survey Tag because I feel like that is a good way to get to know a little bit about me as I start my channel. This tag was originally a blog post and I will link that down below. So the first question is a author you've read the most books from. For me that's probably going to be J.K. Rowling, John Irving. I've read a lot of John Irving books, and Charles Dickens, I think, are probably going to be the top three for that. B is best sequel ever. Catching Fire was a good sequel. I don't read a ton of series, so I'm going to go with that one, though. That was a good one. C is currently reading. I'm currently reading 3 books. One is Drown by Junot Diaz. The next one is, I'm kind of in and out of Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, and the Sandman, Volume 1 of the Sandman by Neil Gaiman. I'm reading right now, too. Drink of choice while reading. I drink a lot of ginger ale and soda water. I don't really drink that much while I read. E-reader or physical book, definitely physical book. Fictional character you probably would have dated in high school. I dated terrible people in high school, so I don't know. I just finished Gone Girl, so let's go with Nick from Gone Girl because he's kind of a dick. G, glad you gave this book a chance. That is The Fault in Our Stars. Hidden gem book. This is one of my favorite books ever, and I never hear anybody talk about it, and it is Fall on Your Knees by Anne-Marie MacDonald. This book is insane. It's incredible, and you will hear a lot more about this on my channel, I'm sure. Important moment in your reading life. Harry Potter. Just finished. I just said this, but I just finished Gone Girl by Gillian. Gillian? Does anyone know? By Gillian Flynn. Kinds of books you won't read. I read from a lot of different genres, but I'm not really into like chick lit. I'm not really into like cheesy romance novels, that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I won't read them, but they're not my usual go-tos. L is longest book you've read, and that is probably Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. I haven't checked that, but it's definitely the longest book I've read this year and maybe ever. Major book hanger because of. Again, let's go with Gone with the Wind. It was the first book I finished this year, and I'm still thinking about it. Number of bookcases you own. I believe I own 4. O is one book you have read multiple times, and for that one I chose Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte because I just reread this book again, and it was so good. Again. P, preferred place to read. I like to read in bed, I like to read on my couch, and sometimes I read on the bus on the way to work, sometimes. Q, quote that inspires you, gives you all the feels. That is a tough one, but I'm going to go with the opening line of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield because I love that book, and so the opening lines always make me think all the happy things that I think about that book. R, reading regret. This book right here, this is Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, and I just read it and I hated it. Series you started and needed to finish. This is the only series I've started this year, and that is the Wildwood series by Colin Meloy. It's a middle grade series, middle grades fantasy series. It's really good. But I've only read the first book, and I have the second book, so I need to get going on that one. T is 3 of your all-time favorite books. Let's see. I already talked about Anne-Marie MacDonald's Fall on Your Knees. We'll definitely go Harry Potter on this one. Any of the books. It could be any of them. And Michael Chabon's Chabon. Again, I don't know how to pronounce words. This is The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay, which is an incredible book. Unapologetic Fangirl 4. I'm not the fangirling type, but we're going to go Harry Potter on this one. Very excited for this release more than any others. I have no idea. I am always like 6 months behind on new book releases because I read a lot of classics and a lot of modern classics, and I don't pay that much attention to what's currently going on, so I'll get back to you about that in about 3 months. W is worst bookish habit, and for me that is definitely falling asleep while reading. Like I said, I read in bed a lot, and I'll fall asleep, with the book like TP'd on my chest. It's very cliche. But then I like roll over in the night and bend the cover, and I've ruined a lot of books doing that. It's terrible. X marks the spot. Start at the top left-hand side of your shelf and pick the 27th book. For me, this was also, I already talked about this book, but this is Wildwood by Colin Meloy. Why your latest book purchase? I actually purchased 3 books this week. They are all books, however, that I've already read and just did not own nice physical copies of. One is The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. And again, you've seen this already, The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon, I don't know. And lastly, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And last but not least, Z Snatcher book, the last book that kept you up way too late. And the first week of this month, I finally read The Shining by Stephen King. I do not read a lot of horror, and not only was this very gripping and really exciting, but it also kept me up way too late because I could not get to sleep afterwards. So that is the end of the A to Z Bookish Survey Tag. Please comment, subscribe. It's my first video. Let me know if there's anything I can do to make this whole video thing better, because I don't normally, I have no experience recording videos. I don't have a fancy camera or fancy lighting or what have you. So thank y'all, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.